Very excited to be joined on the program by a candidate for California State Assembly District 79, Arameek Glass-Blake. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Thank you so much for having me. My pleasure.
We're very glad to have you on. And so we want to learn about your background, why you decided to run, but also this is a slightly different circumstance in terms of the race. So can you tell us a little bit about what led to the race at this particular time and how that's going?
Definitely. So I am an equity and conflict resolution advisor. I do a lot of work around criminal justice and public safety reform. And I am a friend of the show. I was on a few years ago. I ran for Congress, but I ended up dealing with endometriosis and ultimately finding out I had cancer. And so this time last year, I was hospitalized fighting for my life.
Oh, wow.
And never thought I would run for office again. But once the governor appointed Dr. Shirley Weber as Secretary of State after Kamala was, now our vice president, I decided to run, and I really had to have a conversation with my community. The 79th district is a very unique community in a sense of it's one of the most diverse districts within the country. And so I felt a need because of the opening, because I felt like the seat needed to be a Black woman, but be the right Black woman. And so we're having a lot of conversations around equity versus representation, because here in San Diego, between multiple communities, the Black community keeps getting the short end of the stick. And right now in the dynamic, there's 5 other people running. It's a very interesting race because Dr. Shirley Weber's daughter is in the race, and she is a medical doctor and ran for La Mesa City Council, which is a city within San Diego County, on a lot of the criminal justice platform that I pushed forward. And so we see all of the candidates, except for myself, are pretty much a special interest. We have one lone Republican in the race who, if you watch back, knows nothing about what he's doing. And so we have 4 other, candidates, Democrat candidates in the race. And really you just see special interests play out across the board. All of, the constituents and people have this feeling of we want it to be a Black woman, but we don't want this anointment into the seat after a mother leaves and then the daughter takes over. And we also don't want special interests around. I constantly talk about labor unions not being created equally, and some of the labor union leaders really making and creating backdoor deals. And so we have a labor person in, we have a establishment Dem who got all of their money from the establishment Sacramento. And then you have myself, who is the independent candidate running really on progressive views and values.
Well, first of all, I want to say sorry to hear about your health difficulties. Obviously difficult to deal with at any point, and during a pandemic, I can only imagine how much more difficult that becomes. It had to make the decision to run more difficult, but also the fact that it is a special election, it is a shorter time frame. You don't have, in theory, like a full year necessarily of campaigning and all of that. How does that shape a bit about the campaign? And in particular, where you have a relative of the former office holder, does that change at all how you're communicating, how you're campaigning?
It in the beginning we thought it would. Like I said, this district is very unique. So it is interesting because when I ran for Congress, all of the endorsements that that I received, or that the daughter has now, I received when I ran previously, right? So those dynamics have changed where I am like the enemy. I've always gone against the establishment, but I am like truly the enemy to to dare run, right? So that has changed. But then in this time of COVID, right, having to like reach out to people in unique ways and really tap into the connection to the community and being the voice of the voters, which I've always been. So for me, it's a very interesting dynamic because I'm very much connected to the 79th district. I, am the only candidate who has worked on every issue throughout the district. So I don't have the same money, I don't have the same resources, and really, I am the black sheep of all of this. I was elected as ADEM recently, and we just seen how social media and really being connected to the voters helped me even get into the seat as an ADEM. And so we're using the same strategy, grassroots organizing, boots on the ground. I am healthy and cancer free. So, my doctor said if I got vaccinated, I could go knock on doors. And so I'm, boots on the ground, knocking on doors, talking to the voters, doing it in the most safe way. But really, I don't have the luxury of sending out, commercials and pamphlets and booklets. I mean, I think at this point, one of the establishment candidates has sent out probably, I would say, 10 different pamphlets and booklets. It looks like literally a hospital magazine. And so we don't, obviously when you're, a grassroots candidate, you don't have those same privileges, right? And really, really tapping into the people to understand why we need election reform, why we need ranked choice voting, why we need publicly funded elections, because many times the people who are the most connected to the community, who do the most work, and who has worked across the board and just trying to take it to the next level on a state or federal level, don't even see the opportunity. People never even hear their name until they vote. And that's because the system is, created that way. And so one of the things I constantly try to explain when talking to folks is that you don't have to be white to uphold white supremacy. And you don't have to be Black or a person of color to help dismantle it. And we see in all the different areas of our political system in ways that even people of color are tokenized and, continue with the white supremacy system that we have. And so those are the things that I'm really addressing. We have a huge issue with education equity. We have a huge issue with economic development. This was all prior to COVID, right? So COVID just amplified the already deep issues that we have within our district. And so that's what I am bringing to the table is really equity. I look at everything through an equity lens. How do we create policy that works for everyone? And how are we giving, and I say this all the time because, the Democratic Party loves to say, we need equality. And I say we need equity. Equality gives everyone the same thing. Equity gives people what they need. And we need to be meeting people's needs. And that's really specifically why I'm running, because I know how to create policy that works for folks, but also make sure our constituents and the voters actually feel, our community feel the policy being passed.
Okay. And we want to make sure that people know that we've alluded to the quick time frame for this race a couple times, but the primary is going to be held on April 6th. That's just a couple of weeks away. You talked earlier about some of your campaign strategies. Are you actively looking for volunteers? Like if people are watching and they want to get involved beyond just voting, how would you recommend doing that?
Definitely. So my and voting has started, by the way. Early voting has started. 300,000 people got their ballots, but people can go to vote4agb.com if they want to volunteer and text bank, phone bank. If they're actually here in San Diego, they can definitely do lip drop. My volunteers are not knocking on doors; they're only dropping lit. But ultimately, we really need our progressive folks and the folks that really, believe in voting values and know that we need to a shift to donate to the campaign, because I am the candidate who is only taking individual contributions. And going against the establishment is hard, but we're doing it. We're making a lot happen with a little.
Awesome. And anyone watching, the information for the website's also been on screen. Aramik, I want to thank you for joining us once again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
And best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.